Judge Jordan Starr thought he could shame Barron Trump on the talent show stage by labeling his performance as outdated and privileged. Instead, Barron's composed rebuttal and powerful message won over the audience, leaving Jordan speechless. The stage lights dimmed, and a hush fell over the audience. The iconic America's Got Talent logo glowed brightly on the massive screen behind the stage. It was the kind of night where dreams were made, or crushed. Among the hopefuls waiting backstage was Barron Trump, now a freshman in college, standing tall and composed, his sharp suit a stark contrast to the casual attire of the other contestants. Barron had always been a private person, but tonight he was stepping into the spotlight. His decision to audition wasn't about fame or recognition. It was about sharing a message. He had chosen to perform The Impossible Dream from Man of La Mancha, a song that embodied his belief in courage, perseverance, and standing firm in one's convictions. As the stage manager signaled for him to step forward, Barron took a deep breath. He wasn't nervous. He had been raised to handle pressure with grace. His mother's words echoed in his mind. Stay calm, stay true, and let your actions speak louder than their words. The host introduced him with a mix of curiosity and intrigue. Next up, we have Barron Trump, a college freshman with a passion for music. Let's see what he's got. The audience murmured, some recognizing his name, and others simply curious about the tall, composed young man walking onto the stage. Barron approached the microphone, his calm demeanor commanding attention. "Good evening," he said, his voice steady and clear. "Tonight I'll be performing The Impossible Dream. This song is about striving for greatness, even when the odds are against you. It's a message I think we all need to hear." The audience clapped politely, though a few skeptical murmurs could be heard. Barron adjusted the microphone and began to sing. His voice was rich and powerful, filling the theater with emotion. The lyrics resonated deeply, speaking of honor, courage, and the pursuit of a higher purpose. As he sang, the audience began to lean in, captivated by the sincerity and strength in his performance. To fight the unbeatable foe, to bear with unbearable sorrow, to run where the brave dare not go. Barron's voice soared, and for a moment the theater was silent except for the sound of his singing. Even those who had been skeptical couldn't deny the raw talent and passion he brought to the stage. When he finished, the audience erupted into applause. Barron smiled humbly, nodding in gratitude. But as the applause died down, the real test began: the judges' feedback. The panel of judges was a mix of personalities, but one stood out immediately. Sitting in the center was a flamboyant figure dressed in a bright pink suit, with heavy makeup and a wig styled in cascading curls. This was Jordan Starr, a self-proclaimed activist and social media influencer who had gained fame for his outspoken views on gender and identity. Jordan, a biological man presenting as a woman, was known for his sharp critiques and progressive ideology. The first judge, a seasoned musician, spoke up. "Barron, that was a fantastic performance. Your voice is incredible, and the song choice was bold. Well done." The second judge, a comedian, added, "I didn't expect that. You've got real talent, kid. Great job." Then it was Jordan's turn. He leaned forward, his expression a mix of skepticism and disdain. "Well, Barron," Jordan began, his voice dripping with condescension, "I'll admit, you have a good voice, but I have to say your performance felt problematic." The audience shifted uncomfortably, sensing the tension. Barron remained calm, his hands resting lightly on the microphone stand. "Problematic?" he asked, his tone polite but curious. Jordan nodded, gesturing dramatically. "Yes, problematic. The song you chose, The Impossible Dream, is steeped in outdated notions of masculinity. This idea of the noble hero, fighting battles and conquering foes, it's the kind of toxic narrative that has been used to uphold patriarchal systems for centuries." A few gasps could be heard from the audience, along with some murmurs of disapproval. Barron's expression didn't change. He simply listened, letting Jordan continue. "And let's be honest," Jordan added, his voice rising. "Your performance reeked of privilege. You come from a wealthy, powerful family, and it's clear you've had every advantage handed to you. Singing about impossible dreams when you've never faced real hardship, it's tone deaf, to say the least." The audience was now visibly divided. Some nodded in agreement with Jordan, while others shook their heads, clearly offended by the harsh critique. Barron took a moment before responding, his calm demeanor unshaken. He had been taught to think before he spoke, to choose his words carefully. "Thank you for your feedback," he began, his voice steady. "I understand that we all bring our own perspectives to the table, and I respect that. But I'd like to clarify a few things." He paused, meeting Jordan's gaze with quiet confidence. "First, this song isn't about toxic masculinity or privilege. It's about striving for something greater than yourself. It's about courage, perseverance, and standing up for what you believe in, even when it's difficult. Those are values that transcend gender, race, and background." The audience began to clap, but Barron held up a hand, signaling for them to wait. "Second," he continued, "I don't deny that I've been blessed with opportunities. But privilege doesn't define who you are. It's what you do with it that matters. I've worked hard to develop my talent, and I chose this song because its message resonates with me personally. It's a reminder that we all have a responsibility to strive for greatness, not just for ourselves, but for the people we can inspire along the way." Do you agree with Barron's message about timeless values like courage and perseverance? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that celebrate truth, logic, and standing up for what's right. The applause grew louder, and Jordan's expression faltered for a moment before he regained his composure. Jordan wasn't ready to back down. "That's a nice speech, Barron," he said, his tone sharp. "But it doesn't change the fact that your performance perpetuates harmful stereotypes. We need art that challenges the status quo, not reinforces it." Barron nodded thoughtfully. "I agree that art should challenge us," he said. "But it should also inspire us. The status quo isn't always the enemy. Sometimes the values that have stood the test of time, like courage, honor, and perseverance, are worth holding on to. They remind us of who we are and what we can achieve." The audience erupted into cheers, and even the other judges looked impressed. Jordan, however, looked visibly frustrated, his carefully crafted critique unraveling in the face of Barron's calm logic. As the applause died down, Jordan leaned back in his chair, his expression unreadable. "Well," he said finally, "we'll see what the audience thinks." Barron nodded, his calm smile never wavering. He had said what he needed to say, and he knew that his performance and his message had left an impact. The camera panned to the audience, where people were on their feet, clapping and cheering. The stage lights dimmed as Barron walked off, his head held high. But the night wasn't over yet. The judges still had to cast their votes, and Jordan wasn't done making his case. Backstage, Barron stood quietly, watching the other contestants as they prepared for their performances. The energy was electric, with hopefuls pacing nervously, rehearsing their acts or chatting excitedly about their time on stage. Barron, however, remained calm, his hands resting in his pockets as he reflected on the exchange with Jordan. He had expected some pushback. After all, his family name alone was enough to draw criticism. But the intensity of Jordan's remarks had been sharper than he anticipated. Still, he wasn't rattled. His parents had always taught him to stay composed under pressure, to let his actions and words speak for themselves. He knew that the truth had a way of cutting through noise, and he trusted that the audience had seen the sincerity in his performance. The stage manager approached him with a clipboard. "Barron, you're needed back on stage for the judge's deliberation," she said with a smile. He nodded, straightening his jacket. "Thank you." As he walked back toward the stage, the applause from the previous act faded, and the host's voice boomed over the speakers. "Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome back Barron Trump." The audience clapped enthusiastically as Barron stepped onto the stage, his tall frame and composed demeanor commanding attention. He stood in the center, hands clasped in front of him as the judges prepared to deliver their final verdict. The first judge, the seasoned musician, spoke up. "Barron, I want to start by saying that your performance was truly exceptional. Your voice is powerful, and your delivery was heartfelt. I could feel the emotion behind every word, and that's what great art is all about. For me, it's a yes." The audience erupted into cheers, and Barron nodded graciously. The second judge, the comedian, chimed in. "I'll be honest, Barron. I didn't know what to expect when you walked out here, but you blew me away. You've got real talent, and I think you've got what it takes to go far in this competition. It's a yes for me, too." The cheers grew louder, and Barron allowed himself a small smile. But he knew the real challenge was yet to come. Jordan leaned forward, his expression unreadable. The audience quieted, sensing the tension. "Well, Barron," Jordan began, his voice measured, "I've been thinking a lot about your performance and your response to my critique. And while I can't deny that you have a good voice, I still stand by what I said earlier. Your song choice and delivery perpetuate harmful stereotypes about masculinity and privilege. In today's world, we need artists who challenge the status quo, not reinforce it." A few scattered claps came from the audience, but the majority remained silent, waiting to see how Barron would respond. Jordan continued, his tone growing sharper. "You talk about courage and perseverance, but let's be honest. What do you know about struggle? You've lived a life of luxury and privilege. You've never had to fight for anything. So while your performance was technically impressive, it lacked authenticity. And for that reason, it's a no from me." The audience gasped, and a few boos could be heard. Barron remained calm, his expression thoughtful as he considered Jordan's words. "Thank you for your feedback," he said after a moment, his voice steady. "I understand that my background might make it hard for some people to relate to me. But I believe that struggle isn't just about material circumstances. It's about the challenges we face within ourselves, the doubts, the fears, the pressure to live up to expectations. Those are struggles we all face, regardless of where we come from." The audience began to clap, and Barron continued, his tone measured and sincere. "As for the song choice," he said, "I chose The Impossible Dream because it speaks to universal values, values that have inspired people throughout history to overcome adversity and achieve greatness. Courage, perseverance, and honor aren't just masculine traits. They're human traits. And I believe they're just as relevant today as they've ever been." The applause grew louder, and Jordan's expression faltered for a moment, before he regained his composure. "That's a nice sentiment, Barron," Jordan said, his tone dismissive. "But the fact remains that your performance didn't resonate with me, and as a judge, that's what matters." Barron nodded, his calm smile never wavering. "I respect your opinion," he said simply. "But I also believe that art isn't just about resonating with individuals. It's about reaching people on a deeper level, inspiring them to think, to feel, and to strive for something greater. If my performance did that for even one person in this audience, then I consider it a success." The audience erupted into cheers, and even the other judges looked impressed. Jordan, however, looked visibly frustrated, his carefully crafted critique unraveling in the face of Barron's calm logic. The host stepped forward, his voice cutting through the noise. "Well, it looks like we've got 2 yeses and 1 no. That means it's up to the audience to decide if Barron moves on to the next round. The crowd roared in approval, and the host turned to Barron. Barron, you've clearly made an impression tonight. Let's see what the audience thinks. The camera panned to the audience, where people were on their feet, clapping and cheering. The energy in the room was electric, and it was clear that Barron had won over the majority. The host smiled, turning back to the judges. Well, I think it's safe to say the audience has spoken. Barron, congratulations. You're moving on to the next round. The cheers grew even louder, and Barron nodded humbly, thanking the judges and the audience. As he walked off the stage, his head held high, he knew that the night's events had been about more than just a performance. It had been an opportunity to stand up for what he believed in, to show that calm reasoning and timeless values could still resonate in a world that often seemed divided. Backstage, the other contestants congratulated him, some shaking his hand, and others offering words of encouragement. Barron smiled, grateful for their support. He knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but he was ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. As he left the theater that night, the cool night air filling his lungs, Barron felt a sense of peace. He had stayed true to himself, and that was all that mattered. The next round of the competition arrived quickly, and the buzz surrounding Barron's performance had only grown. Clips of his audition had gone viral, with millions of views and countless comments debating the exchange between him and Jordan Starr. Some praised Barron for his poise and talent, while others sided with Jordan, accusing him of being out of touch and privileged. Barron, however, paid little attention to the noise. He had learned long ago not to let public opinion dictate his actions. Instead, he focused on preparing for his next performance. This time, he had chosen a song that was deeply personal to him, You Raise Me Up, by Josh Groban. It was a tribute to his parents, who had always supported him and instilled in him the values of hard work, humility, and faith. When the night of the next round arrived, the theater was packed, and the energy was palpable. Backstage, Barron stood quietly, rehearsing the lyrics in his mind. He could hear the muffled sound of the host introducing the show, followed by the cheers of the audience. Next up, we have Barron Trump, who wowed us in the first round with his powerful performance of The Impossible Dream. Let's see what he's got for us tonight. The audience erupted into applause as Barron stepped onto the stage. He was dressed simply but elegantly, his presence commanding respect. He approached the microphone, his calm demeanor once again captivating the room. Good evening, he said, his voice steady. Tonight I'll be performing You Raise Me Up. This song is a tribute to the people who have supported me and inspired me to be the best version of myself. I hope it resonates with you as much as it does with me. The audience clapped warmly, and Barron took a deep breath as the music began to play. His voice was even more powerful than before, rich with emotion and sincerity. The lyrics carried a universal message of gratitude and strength, and as he sang, the audience was visibly moved. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. The theater was silent except for the sound of Barron's voice, which filled the room with a sense of hope and inspiration. By the time he reached the final note, the audience was on their feet, clapping and cheering. Barron smiled humbly, nodding in gratitude as he stepped back from the microphone. But as the applause died down, he knew the real test was about to begin. The first judge, the seasoned musician, was the first to speak. Barron, you've done it again. Your voice is incredible, and your ability to connect with the audience is truly special. This performance was even better than the last. It's a yes from me. The second judge, the comedian, added, Barron, I don't know how you do it. but you've got this way of making everyone in the room feel something. That's what great performers do. It's another yes from me." The audience cheered, but all eyes were on Jordan Starr, who sat in the center of the panel, his expression unreadable. Jordan leaned forward, his voice calm but pointed. "Well, Barron, I'll admit you have a good voice, and this performance was fine. But I still can't get past the fact that you represent everything that's wrong with the world today. Privilege, outdated values, toxic masculinity, it's all there. And while your singing is technically impressive, it doesn't change the fact that your message is harmful." The audience booed loudly, but Jordan raised a hand, silencing them. "I'm not here to win a popularity contest," he said sharply. "I'm here to judge talent. And while you have talent, Barron, I can't support someone who refuses to challenge the status quo. So it's a no from me." The boos grew louder, but Barron remained calm, his expression thoughtful. He waited for the noise to die down before speaking. "Thank you for your feedback," he said, his voice steady. "I understand that we see the world differently, and I respect your right to your opinion. But I'd like to address something you said." He paused, meeting Jordan's gaze with quiet confidence. "You said that I represent everything that's wrong with the world today. But I believe that the values I stand for, hard work, gratitude, and perseverance, are what make the world a better place. These values aren't outdated. They're timeless. And they're what have allowed people to overcome challenges and achieve greatness throughout history." The audience erupted into applause, but Barron wasn't finished. "As for privilege," he continued, "I don't deny that I've been blessed with opportunities. But privilege doesn't define who you are. It's what you do with it that matters. I've worked hard to develop my talent, and I've used the opportunities I've been given to inspire others. That's what this competition is about. It's not about where you come from. It's about what you bring to the table." The applause grew even louder, and Jordan's expression faltered for a moment before he regained his composure. "Well," Jordan said finally, his tone dismissive, "that's a nice speech, Barron. But it doesn't change my vote." The host stepped forward, his voice cutting through the noise. "Well, it looks like we've got 2 yeses and 1 no. That means it's up to the audience to decide if Barron moves on to the next round." The crowd roared in approval, and the host turned to Barron. "Barron, you've clearly made an impression tonight. Let's see what the audience thinks." The camera panned to the audience, where people were on their feet, clapping and cheering. The energy in the room was electric, and it was clear that Barron had won over the majority. The host smiled, turning back to the judges. "Well, I think it's safe to say the audience has spoken. Barron, congratulations. You're moving on to the next round." The cheers grew even louder, and Barron nodded humbly, thanking the judges and the audience. As he walked off the stage, his head held high, he knew that the night's events had been about more than just a performance. It had been an opportunity to stand up for what he believed in, to show that calm reasoning and timeless values could still resonate in a world that often seemed divided. Backstage, the other contestants congratulated him, some shaking his hand and others offering words of encouragement. Barron smiled, grateful for their support. He knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but he was ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. As he left the theater that night, the cool night air filling his lungs, Barron felt a sense of peace. He had stayed true to himself, and that was all that mattered. If Barron's calm reasoning and powerful performance inspired you, let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories that celebrate timeless values and standing strong in the face of adversity.